Matthew Lloyd says, and got a bunch of questions about this one, and I hadn't heard about it before I looked at the questions for this a while ago. Matthew Lloyd says, telescopes have been tracking fast radio bursts, FRBs, for years. Recently, scientists have noticed some FRBs that follow a mathematical pattern which would indicate intelligence. The FRB, let me just stop right there. Not necessarily. The FRBs appear to be coming from outside our solar system. If intelligent life form is using FRBs to send a message, scientists have concluded that they must be a Kardashev Type 2 civilization. These kind of things always make me laugh. Your thoughts on life, human or otherwise, in the vast expanse of space and what an encounter with a Kardashev Type 2 civilization might look like or mean for humanity on Earth. Also, any sci-fi speculation on what it would mean or look like for us to develop the technology to become a Type 1, Type 2, or Type 3 civilization? Is it only a matter of time? I say let's push on directly to Type 3. These kind of things are interesting, and I don't mean to mock them. There's a lot to say here. And I'm going to include the next question from Robert Eric Rasmussen because they're kind of related. Thoughts on the Fermi paradox, i.e., where is everybody? And Anthony Cazillo also says, which would be more profound, if the universe is teeming with life or if we're the only life in the universe? So let's talk about the FRBs first, and then we'll work our way down. I saw a little bit of data on the FRBs after I got the question, and I'm not spectacularly impressed. I'm not unimpressed, but I'm not like, wow, knock me over with a feather impressed. And the reason I'm not is because when you say that they were in like a series of mathematical bursts that were increasing at a certain rate or timed at a certain rate or so on, and that indicated intelligence, I think probably the best example of what I'm thinking might be an explanation, although an unexplained explanation at the present, is if you look at the Nautilus shell and you section a Nautilus shell, that has a regular mathematical precession too, but it's not intelligence. The Nautilus didn't say, I'm going to build this chamber this size and the next chamber this plus this factor, which keeps multiplying and therefore starts out very tiny and in a spiral becomes much bigger. That's a mathematical progression that biology follows but is not intelligent. And I suspect there might be some sort of physical explanation for something like that. I frankly think, look, if somebody wants to communicate with us, they're not going to set up a series of Nautilus kind of type, progressions. It's pretty clear. It's got to be some. I don't know if it was Arthur C. Clarke or somebody like that, but somebody said, you want to make the case, hey man, just transmit the first 20 prime numbers. That'll do it. They just come as beep, 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 like that. Doesn't matter what base language you're in. Doesn't matter if you had 5 little fingers on your hand by evolution's randomness, or 4 or 8 or whatever. Transmitting the series of prime numbers that's intelligence, but that's not what we're seeing there. So while I'm not ruling it out, I'm not impressed. It didn't like blow me away, as M2 Foster pointed out. When we first heard pulsars, click 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 click, we thought, well, my God, they first called them LGMs, little green men, because what else could it be? So while I'm not unimpressed with FRBs. I don't think it's fraudulent. I don't think it's silly, and I don't think it's even likely. It doesn't have the feel of wow to me. Now, with that said, that may be exactly what they are, and it's strange how, the reason I guess I'm so kind of calm about this is because, first of all, I'm calm about everything these days compared to where I was before. But more importantly, I think it's because I've been disappointed so many times. So many people talk about, I've really gotten to be pretty good at this kind of Loch Ness Monster UFO kind of, practicality. And it's only because I've been disappointed so many times. When we first started as little junior astronomers, we were 15, 16 years old, and I was working in the planetarium, been there for several years, and this console operator, a guy who had been part of the Southern Cross Astronomical Society for years, he was a couple years older than me. He was probably 17, 18. I was 15, 16. He came back and shook me by the lapels one day and said, man, I was out in the Everglades last night and I saw them. And this is right around the time of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I'm like, man, for sure, can't wait. Because you want to believe it so much, right? You want to believe it. And he said, I was out in the Everglades. We saw them. It's like, you saw what? I said, we saw these things like in Close Encounters, these lights in the sky, but they were moving at right angles to each other and then just disappearing immediately off in space. Oh, my God. So I said, well, all right, let's go look. So I went out there with him the next night or the next weekend. And as usual, you think, okay, First you're going to see them, and then it's going to be any second now, and then it's any hour now, and then, you know, as the night's going by, and I thought, you know what, this is what's going to be what always happens. It's going to be, nothing's going to happen, and you know, it's like you've got a rattle, you take it to mechanic, and the car purrs. But just before sunrise, my friend was sitting there, and he started screaming, yelling, pointing these things out. I said, there they are. It's like, where? And I look up, and he's like, there, see it? It's like, buddy, that's a satellite. No, it is. It's a satellite. It's obviously a satellite. Just watch it. But look how it's not moving. It's moving in a linear direction. You know, you may be getting a little autokinesis in there with your eyeballs drifting, but it's not doing anything. You know, and it's like, is that what you saw before? Yeah. Okay. All right. I just have been disappointed so much that these kind of things don't impress me anymore. When there's evidence, that will impress me, not just something, you know. The FRBs to me seem to me like it's a picture of a wake, you know. In the distance, there's a wake and a blurry object 7 miles away in the middle of Loch Ness. Okay. Then, okay. But right now it's just a wake and a blurry object. When the plesiosaur rears up, and people all around, 700 people with their little iPhones are shooting HD footage of this thing coming down and either eating children out of a school bus or waiting to be patted on the head, that's evidence. And that's when I'll be impressed, because I've had my heart broken too many times by all this stuff, starting with ancient astronauts and the you know, the all that nonsense and all the damage that Leonard Nimoy did on In Search of. Is this the answer to Bigfoot? Blah, 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 blah. Half an hour later, we don't know. Is this ancient astronauts? Half an hour later, we don't know. The Bermuda Triangle, half an hour later, we don't know. Yeah, well, guess what? These things can be deconstructed. I was the first person I've ever heard say, if it's a plesiosaur, why don't we see it 7 times an hour? Because we want to see it so much. I remember clearly having the ancient astronauts thing destroyed for me in a good way. Because you'd see these pictures of like the hummingbird on the plains of Nazca Plains in Peru. And you'd see these hummingbird shapes, and you'd see the hummingbird wings in these parallel lines, and then you'd see like lines of aircraft parked, and Eric von Däniken would say, were these in fact staging areas for ancient spacecraft in this ancient spaceport? And I thought, wow, I bet it is. And then somebody took a picture, and it turned out that the hummingbird wings that were used presumably to stage aircraft was 25 feet across. The guy stood in the middle of it. He could walk across it in 4 or 5 steps, 6 steps, something like that. And it's like, you're just being lied to. They're just lying to you. And that pretty much knocked the ancient astronaut story out of the water for me. And speaking of out of the water, I remember as if it were yesterday when I was like really into the Bermuda Triangle, because you want mysteries. Everybody wants mysteries. I'm not, you know, I'm human too. I want mysteries like everybody else. I just, hey, Mike, you know what? They have it set up now so that if your phone rings, your computer rings, and I don't want that. And somebody tell me how to turn that off. Anyway, Bermuda Triangle. Ooh, oh, these flights disappeared. Ooh, well, that's never happened before. Oh, a ship disappeared. The Marine Sulphur Queen, and the flight of Avengers. And what could possibly explain it except an underground vortex, a magnetic vortex, or maybe it's a wormhole, or maybe it's methane gas being released. And then somebody just killed it. They just shot it dead in the same way I think I shoot the Loch Ness Monster dead. They said, if you take an area the size of the Bermuda Triangle and place it anywhere over the world's trade routes, you will come up with the same number of unexplained disappearances. Really? Yep. That was the end of that. I was done after that. I don't know anything about these Kardashev-type civilizations. I suspect they've got to do with this, but I do want to comment on something that the Kardashev-type civilizations remind me of, and that's the Drake equation. For those of you who don't remember, astronomer named Drake put together this famous equation that was to determine the number of civilizations in the universe. And it was very, very, very sensible and very logical. And I was so impressed when I heard it in mid-'70s, early 70s, somewhere around there, around the time we sent the Arecibo radio message out. And it's like, if the number of planets in the universe is determined by, okay, the number of stars in the galaxy, and then the number of stars times the number of, what percentage of stars have habitable planets? What percentage of habitable planets are in the life zone? What percentage of planets in the life zone develop life? What percentage of planets that develop life develop intelligent life? What percentage of intelligent life develops technological life? multiplied by how long this civilization will survive in the age of atomic weapons, and all the rest of this drivel. And it sounded so sensible and so rational and so reasonable to me, and it was like you came up with a number that was anywhere between 100,000 and 100 million or something like that, right? And I remember being so impressed as a kid, and I wish I'd love to tell you this was me, but somebody not too long ago said the Drake equation was the end of science. It was the end of science because here was an equation where you had all these variables and no evidence. And that's so true. It's so true. I didn't even see it as a kid. I didn't see it through most of my life until finally somebody smarter than me said, you've got this incredible, well thought out, rational, logical equation that has like 12 variables or something like this. That's going to give you a number. These 12 variables equals the number of intelligent civilizations and intelligent technological civilizations in the galaxy or the universe or whatever. And you see all this stuff, and the guy pointed out, but we have no data. We have data on the number of stars in the galaxy. This is before any of the exoplanet research. We don't have any data on the number of planets. And everything downstream of that was boiled out of the number of planets in the life zone, number of planets that develop life. And we don't have any idea, zero idea. It's kind of like having it's like you've got 12 significant figures multiplied by a number with one significant figure, and all the rest of that stuff is hooey. And it's one of these things that's so fascinating to me from a political point of view because it deals with human nature, and it deals with the madness of crowds, and it deals with the fact that, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, millions of people bought into this thing. Matt J. Harris in the comment section just said the Drake equation shows you what variables you should be looking for. I agree, that's interesting, but there's no data. It's useless. We didn't have any data of the upstream elements, and all of the stuff downstream was nuts. And but it was treated like science, but it's not science. He might as well have asked, and the number of gingerbread houses produced by and the number of civilizations destroyed by flying monkeys, and that's going to be a percentage of it's ridiculous. So when people start speculating about different types of civilizations, I'm not trying to put Kardashev in the same box, but I am becoming more and more and more and more alarmed and concerned at how constricted the thinking of people who claim to be out-of-the-box thinkers really is. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And so much of this stuff is stuff that we don't know. These are known unknowns. There are unknown unknowns and any number of things out there. They're just completely outside the box. And I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying I'm not impressed by it in the way that I used to be. And that's maybe me getting cynical, or as I said on the Speakeasy show, which I'm very happy with, why are Republicans so old? Well, because it takes a while to beat the stupid out of people. And I've had the stupid beaten out of me in terms of this kind of wishful thinking fulfillment. So, look, does that mean the FRBs are not signs of intelligence? It does not mean that. That is one explanation for them. If there is no other explanation, then that's the most likely explanation until it's either proven or until proven by finding more of a signal inside these things, or somebody comes up with another natural reason for why these things are transmitting at these frequencies and these rates. As far as this Kardashev Type 2 civilization, I think it sounds great, and it's a useful construct, but it is primate intelligence construct, and we don't know what we don't know in terms of life, intelligent life, technological life. Maybe they communicate through scent. Who knows? I'm just saying we have to be careful about this. We have to be careful on building assumptions about these things. This is the thing that's driven me to conservatism. There's so many assumptions of progressives. They just make assumptions. Yes, of course, everybody will get up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to take care of the community cow that doesn't belong to anybody, because we're all true believers and we're intellectuals and we're learned university students, and we hate money because we don't have any. So, of course, everybody will get up and we'll make new men and new people. I just don't believe it anymore. And I'm happy that I don't believe it anymore. So let's get to the Fermi paradox, which is the idea that where is everybody? If there's this many stars and this many planets, and we're finding more and more planets every day, and they're becoming a lot more common than I ever was. I think in a previous segment or the one before this, certainly part of the astronomy show, when I was working in the planetarium, 70, 75, 76, there was some speculation that Barnard's star might in fact have one, if not two, planets around it. We didn't have the evidence. There was just a little bit of a wobble, I think. Well, now we've got thousands of them. So where's the intelligence? I think I said before that the moon is what makes this our civilization, our technological civilization is here because of the moon. Without the moon, we take asteroid impacts that basically reset the evolutionary clock every 20 million years, every 5 million years. The moon not only takes impacts that in terms of the moon getting hit by things, but as I said before, there's an incredible little flash animation thing, great little flash program, where you could launch asteroids into the Earth-Moon system, and this would show you how the moon just accelerates them out, blocks them, sends them in. You know, incredible how much pain the moon takes on our behalf, and that's why it's so cratered. And the moon is the core of the Earth. A friend of mine named Brent Regan pointed out that one of the things that the moon did when the proto-Earth, which was about the size of Earth, was moving along, Earth 1, and a planet that's about the size of Mars has been called Orpheus and a bunch of other names, hits the Earth at a glancing angle. The two planets fuse, and the core of the Earth gets knocked out and all the silicates and all this other stuff. But he was saying, you know, if you don't have this kind of fluke, freak accident that happens in just the right way, does the planet's mantle get scrambled in that way? In other words, if that hadn't happened, would all of the iron be at the center of the Earth instead of in the hills where we can get it and have an iron age? Would all the copper be at the center of the Earth? Would we have ever had a bronze age if this impact hadn't happened and mixed up the crust? It's an interesting idea. But the moon protects us long enough for intelligence to arise and then technology. And by the way, if the dolphins were as intelligent as people say they are, maybe they are, it's not going to help out very many people who are, forget about in the next solar system, it was not going to help people who are 100 feet inland if they can't communicate because they don't have technology, because they got flippers and they're at sea, so they can't build things. What good does it do? So look, my feeling about the intelligent life in the universe is it is without question far scarcer than I had hoped it would be when I was a strapping young lad. I've never been a strapping young lad. It's far scarcer than I thought it would be when I was a skinny geek astronomer kid. Oh, I have to pull out my skinny geek astronomer picture. I'm sorry. I know it's a little awkward for me to have to go back. But hey, you know, how do we have this conversation talking about planetarium and all this other stuff without me finding this thing? I got to go a little bit back. I know I posted it a while ago. Let's see if I can find one or two of these things here. And you know what? I probably shouldn't even do this. It's just kind of ridiculous to search like this, especially since the thing's not even coming out. To hell with it. Yeah, you don't need the dead air. We'll worry about it later. But anyway, there I was, a geeky little astronomy kid, and I believed in all this stuff, and I don't anymore. So, do I think there is intelligent technological life in the universe? Categorically, I do, because the numbers are just so vast. When you've got the number of star systems in the galaxy, number of galaxies in the universe, the chance of all of these conditions being replicated is, it's got to be pretty near 100%. There will be other planets out there. I think life is everywhere. I think we're going to find life in the solar system. I think there's a 50-50 chance of us finding life, non-human life, in the solar system. I think life is scattered throughout the universe. I wouldn't be surprised if virtually all of these planets throughout the universe have some form of life on it. But that's not intelligent life. And that's not technological intelligent life. I think that's much rarer. I think it's rarer because it needs more time, and I think most planets don't get that time because they don't have a moon to protect them. But some planets, some small number of planets, will have a moon in just the right place and just the right size, be a form of a double planet like ours, and then there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. So there you go. So, yes, I don't think the universe is empty, but I don't think it's anything like as full as I thought it would be. Moving on.